I've seen quite a few people complaining online about the noise levels in the Sony A1 and how much better their A9 or A9 II or other camera were at handling noise compared to the A1. Some of those cameras are 24 megapixel cameras that we're comparing here to a 50 megapixel camera in the Sony A1. And people are pixel peeping at the 100% level for comparisons. If you really want a fair comparison, downsample the A1 files to 24 megapixels to match those other cameras and then compare. But the truth is that the A1 handles noise very well for a 50 megapixel camera. I've seen people suggesting that photographers shouldn't shoot above ISO 1600 or 2000 on the Sony A1 to avoid noise, but that's simply not possible in most cases, especially for wildlife photographers. Obviously, you want to shoot the lowest ISO possible to get the shot that you're going for, but sometimes you really need to push it. Here's an example. I took this photo of an African wood owl during the night with only a flashlight for external light. This was taken on the Sony A1 with the 200 to 600 millimeter lens and the 1.4 teleconverter attached. I needed to use auto ISO for this photo, and the camera chose ISO 80,000 for this image. 80,000. Obviously, the noise here is terrible, and most people might find this file unusable. And honestly, I probably would have before I started using some of the software I'm going to show you today, especially DxO PureRaw. That's probably my favorite program to handle noise in any of my photos. I'm not sponsored by DxO at all, but I've just found their software to be an absolute lifesaver, so I figured I would show you on this video how I handle noise in really, really noisy images. So this was shot ISO 80,465 millimeters, f9, 1/200th of a second. And if we zoom in to 100%, pixel peeping, we can see the noise in this image is just awful. It's everywhere. It's really, really bad. You can see underneath the noise, though, that there's plenty of detail in the owl's feathers. So it's not an unsharp image. It's actually quite sharp, but I needed to use ISO 80,000 to get it. So how are we going to deal with this? This is DxO PureRaw. First thing you need to do is load your photo into the program. So you can do that by add photos to process. Right here you can see the owl has been loaded in. And then all you're going to do is go up to process photos. It brings up a little dialog box for some options for how you want this photo processed. So you have several methods here you can choose from. I always do deep prime. It usually will give you the best end product, but it also takes the longest. In my case, on this machine, it takes about 40 seconds to do one image. You'll then want to go down to Dxo Optical Corrections. Now, I will say the one thing that I do not like about this program is it tends to over sharpen images if you let it. So I always have global lens sharpening turned off. I may play around with this a little more as time goes on. Maybe if you're starting with a photo that isn't terribly sharp, this could help. But I've found that I can get better results without using that. I do turn on lens distortion correction. This basically just corrects for any distortion coming from your camera and your lens, flattens the field. It may increase color or get rid of some of the distortion around the edges as well. So I always have that turned on. That gives you a great starting point. The output format I have is DNG. That's going to be the highest quality image that will be output from this program. And then down here in the destination folder, you choose where you want the processed image to appear. So that's it. We're going to go to process this photo, and it's going to take about 40 seconds, and we'll see what kind of result we get. Okay, so our image has been processed. You can see processing done here. What do you want to do next? I really like to just view the results first in this program to see what kind of output I get. This gives you a really nice panel to look at some before and after. before processing, after processing. So here's our original image here. You can see tons of noise, sharp owl, but tons of noise. So we need to get rid of that noise. So let's see how this program did. Let's just drag this over, and immediately you can see a huge difference. I mean, this program is magic. Look at this. That noise is essentially gone. Look at that difference. The difference in noise in the original image and the final image is just amazing. So we now have a totally usable image, in my opinion. This is a fantastic starting point now for some post-processing. Sure, there's a little artifacting in the background. Again, we're shooting at ISO 80,000, so that can be expected, and that can be solved in post as well. But just look at the difference here. Magic. So we want to get that back into Lightroom. We can go down to Lightroom. We can go to Import. We'll then import this new photo that was processed here. And then we have our image back in Lightroom. Pretty amazing. I also use this program for images that are not shot at ISO 80,000 and are shot at more reasonable ISOs. So this picture of a sunbird here was taken at ISO 8000, 1/500th of a second, and f11. So this is the original raw image. Obviously could use some editing, but let's pixel peep here. Go into 100%, and you can see at ISO 8000, we've got some noise in the background here. We've got some noise on the bird. Obviously not as pronounced as that last image that we looked at, but if you are pixel peeping and you want to zoom into 100% and you want to see a clean image, we need to clean up this noise. So let's see what DxO PureRaw can do on an image that wasn't shot at ISO 80,000, but instead 8,000. So we're going to process this the same way we processed the other one. I'm not going to apply any sharpening. The image looks sharp to me to begin with. So we're just going to process this photo the same way we did the owl and see what kind of results we get for this one. Okay, about 40 seconds later, and we have our sunbird photo process. So let's just take a view of the results here in the PureRaw panel to see how we did. So this is the full-size image, not zoomed in at all. And drag the slider over, and you can see right away that noise in the background is gone. I mean, it is gone. The noise on the sunbird is gone. Now we're starting with a really, really clean image here. Look at that. Really nice. So let's pixel peep here at the 100% level and see what we get. So drag the slider around. You can see just the difference that this makes. Handles ISO 8000 really, really easily. Look at how it just takes it away from all of the feathers in the bird. Leaves that fine detail that we want and gets rid of the noise. That's pretty amazing. Here's our processed sunbird photo with no noise, fine feather detail, maybe a little bit of artifacting or a little noise left still in the background here, but we can easily handle that in post. So this gives us really clean images to start working with. Absolutely love this product. If you are struggling with noise in your photos and want to try some software, absolutely try DxO PureRaw.